Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the High Ticket Coaching and Consultant Strategy and Growth Show. Now, if you're watching this interview anywhere else but within our private Facebook community called High Ticket Client Attraction Insider Circle, then definitely come check us out. We definitely love to have you. That community, it was put together specifically for coaches, consultants, and service providers who are serious about getting up to that 6 and that 7-figure level. So if you want to be a part of a really supportive community of individuals, definitely come check us out. Now, today I want to introduce you to one of the members of the community, Kris Ward. Welcome, Kris.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Awesome, great having you. So, Kris, tell the members of the community what it is that you do.
Okay, well, I do a couple of things. I'm actually, I have a platform and philosophy called Win the Hour, Win the Day. And it's created by a book I wrote, Win the Hour, Win the Day. I should even have my little props here. I did. Yay.
Oh,
And
nice,
that was
nice.
based on my experience as a marketing strategist. And I was actually pulled away from my business when my husband was diagnosed with colon cancer. And when I returned after his passing, my business had not only survived, but it was still growing. It was thriving. So my existing clients had no idea what was happening or what was going on. And so they started to ask me, under the capacity of, team building, productivity, how did I manage that? Because no one knew. I didn't feel it was good for business. It was not something I wanted to talk about. We were on a very focused, positive trail. So I just didn't I kept those worlds separate. And so I started working with these clients under the capacity of team building, growing their business, and so that they could, stop doing things they hated and zoning out when they were with their family and take real vacations, and really get those ambitious projects out that were starting to eat at them and beat them up because they just felt like they were busy and stuck at the same time. And so we started to have a lot of success. And that's when I thought, you know what, I want to create a movement because I think your business should support your life, not consume it. And so then we started the platform, Win the Hour, Win the Day. And right now, we're also producing our very first info product, the outsourcing playbook for busy entrepreneurs, more results, less you. So that's where I'm at.
Yeah, love it, love it. So, tell us, what's the premise of Win the Hour, win the Day?
Well, the premise started with understanding that I think the whole capacity of a day is too much. Too many people run in and think they're going to get all this stuff done in a day. And I know I used to go in with, my to-do list in my hand, mighty Monday morning, thinking, oh, this is it. I'm going to get so much done. And what was happening was I didn't understand when I had derailed or how off course I was, right? So it's really breaking things down into, no matter what you're doing, if you can win the hour, you can win the day.
Hmm. Awesome. Now, what was your process, as you said, when your husband got sick, your business, and you stepped away, your business was still growing and was still
Mhm.
thriving. How did that, what secrets did you have going on back there?
Well, you know what? It kind of unfolded. Like, I didn't just get up one day and leave dramatically. His treatment started and things escalated. And all of a sudden, you start having more and more chemo appointments and more specialists, and it becomes a full-time job really quickly. Plus, we were very positive in nature. So our belief was, if the doctors are wrong, then we sat around for 2 years holding hands and crying. And if the doctors were right, we sat around for the last 2 years holding our hands and crying. So we also did activities, and I did surprises and took them on little trips. And that took planning as well. So really what had happened is years earlier, I was working like a crazy person, like crazy, night and day, doing all this stuff that we all do when you start a business, think you have to grind it out. It was nuts. And so what happened was I started realizing, like, I can't keep up at this pace. And he used to say to me, like, you can't keep stealing from sleep. That's your go-to. That's where you steal everything from sleep. So for me, my first outsourcer I hired, it came down to this. This is like 8, 9 years ago. And, the world wasn't as virtual then. So I was still going to meetings to get new clients for my marketing. And I'd sit there and I'd take notes and I would promise, hand to God, when I got back to the office, I would put it right in the client's file. And that never happened. And sometimes it'd be like a week or two before I'd get it in the file. Potential client would call, they're asking me questions. Marketing's a very, specific packaging thing. There's always different packages. And I'd be like, oh my gosh, my notes are meant to be lasting for 20 minutes, not a week and a half. So I'd be scrambling and I'd think, oh, what if I got this wrong? And you'd be like, oh, they'd look like I was trying to swindle them, when in fact, I just had bad notes. So which person do you want to be? The one that's swindling them or the one that's not prepared, right? So I thought, okay, there has to be another way. So I actually hired an outsourcer to transcribe my notes. So I would leave the meeting, sit in my car, just give quick notes about the details, the packages, everything. Take me 30 seconds, and then it would be in the notes in the computer, online that day. And it gave me all of Friday afternoon back and took so much relief and stress off my plate. It was unbelievable. And then there was clarity in my pricing, confidence when they called. And so to me, that was the turning point where I realized you can change your life by starting your team.
Hmm. Yeah, having a team is really, it's so,
Yeah.
so powerful, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, good, good. So question becomes, in terms of question I'd like to ask is, as far as, what's one habit you'd say that you practically practice that you'd say is responsible for your success?
Well, one of the things, and we talk about this in the book, When the Hour, When the Day, is one of the things I would tell you is think of your phone like, when you have all those apps up on your phone and they eat down your battery. So whenever I'm doing a new ambition, I do two things. And one, the most important thing is like, when we launched our podcast, When the Hour, When the Day podcast, or, when I was writing my book, or now when we're doing the info product, the outsourcing playbook for busy entrepreneurs. I do the most important thing first thing in the morning, the thing that requires most clarity, the most focus, the most calm. You do that first thing in the morning because then it's done instead of this idea that we all did at some point where, oh, I'm going to try to work really hard through the day and then start that project at 3, 4, 5, 6 o'clock at night. By the way, when I'm exhausted and all fried, and of course that turns into 7, 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night. But when you do it when you're most fresh and most rested, then you can build on that. So when I decided to get my podcast launched in 4 weeks, then we could do it because we had those stable building blocks. Every morning, first hour, I worked on that. So when you have a project, you want to make sure that that's how you lay it out. And the second thing I would say is work backwards. So for example, if you are going to the dentist on Thursday, it doesn't matter how much it costs or how much you don't want to go. You go, okay, I have to be there at 11 a.m. It's an hour away, blah, blah, blah. And you go back and forth and you realize, okay, I have to get up at 7. With projects, we get so excited as entrepreneurs. Oh, I can't wait. Oh, this is going to be awesome. And you dive in. But what you need to do is work backwards. So when I wrote my book, I realized I wanted it to come out in June. So I did the math, and the math showed me I had to produce 5 pages a day to get it to the editors in time to get to June. Now, some days I thought, I don't think I have 5 pages in me. The old me would have been going, okay, well, you know what? Thursday, I'll be rested Thursday. I'm just going to whip out a whole bunch of pages on Thursday. But what I realized when I broke it down and worked backwards is if I don't have 5 pages in me today, I don't have 10 pages in me tomorrow. So that kept me pacing. But again, I had the ability to do all that because I had a team in place that could take on the other responsibilities when I was sort of pushing them to the side a little bit while we focused on something new.
Yeah, yeah, powerful stuff, powerful stuff. And I love what you said as far as doing the most important things first, right? And that's one thing
Yes.
because as I grow my business as well, so even with my clients, I realize that the same things I need, my clients need as well too. Just like one of the things we're implementing now, coaching programs, where it's actually a daily kind of accountability, which is, hey, just let's get on for like 10 minutes. We sit, like
Mm-hmm.
literally sit, physically sit, and everyone writes out in silence, but we all write out, okay, what's the most important thing for the day? I typically love it to be a health thing, right? Because at the end of the day, health is the most
Oh,
we could do. Health is that one, right? Yeah. So we have that. And then the final thing is just say, what are 3 things you're grateful for? And I find that having those things is it's just so powerful because at the end, once you could start with realizing that most of the things we need to do, right, those most important things, they're not complicated big things. They're pretty simple things. But once you get them done as the first thing, it just changes the game because what really counts is that over time consistency, right?
yeah, and you know what? That to me is almost even a given. And very successful people will tell you that they can tell a lot by you when they look at your calendar. And so you're right. I have health things. I have a workout every morning. In the summer, I go for a bike ride at night, and I have the work fits into the health regime. And that's even stopping and eating a proper lunch. Where in the old days, I would be like shoving food down my gullet while I'm on a phone doing emails, and all these things just don't work. By the way, when you're shoving food down your throat, it's never a salad, right? So I
Hmm.
had to even learn how to chew slower. So that really is everything. You are so right on the health thing. I treat myself like I'm a business athlete.
Hmm. Now, what's your why behind what you do?
Well, for this, I just think, you know what? I think business should be fun, and I think it should support your life and not consume it. And I think too many people are out there grinding it out because they think it's the muscle. And
Mhm.
don't confuse sweat with success. And I just believe that's an old school mentality. I also believe that people are misinformed and they think that when I get to a certain level, I'll afford a team, or I could have a team, or I'll have time to create a team. And you're just never going to get there ever without that team. And then people think, well, Kris, I can't afford it. Well, as I gave you my example with the $12, with the, oh, I don't even know if I mentioned that, with the outsourcer I hired for the transcriptions, some weeks when I used her, because she was so efficient, that's all she wanted to do. So she transcribed, she was so fast. So some weeks when I used her, it cost me $12. And the other weeks, I didn't use her, it didn't cost me anything. So we were talking $12 for me to get all Friday afternoon back. So
Mhm.
what I want people to understand is when you think of labor and costs and overhead and managing a team, that's an employee mindset when you were hired. That's
Mhm.
not your resources now. So you've got huge opportunities. And I really want to educate people on that.
Yeah, yeah, and that is so true too. Because I remember the first time, because my vision for my business, right, just like you said, when an entrepreneur gets started, like you feel like you just have to grind, 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 grind,
Yeah.
grind, and then
Pay your
that's
dues.
really, yeah,
Yeah.
for the first few years, that's really what I thought it was. I thought that that's just what entrepreneurship is. You gotta always be
Yeah.
busy, and I
It
remember,
means I thought it meant exhaustion. Like,
yeah,
they say that Eskimos have like 40 words for snow. I
yeah.
had like 40 words for exhaustion. Like, okay, you know what? And then a few years in, you're thinking, well, maybe I'm doing it wrong because I'm still I'm so grateful my business is alive, but I'm working crazy.
Yeah.
And that's just not the way it is. I want to show you something now that I realize we're doing visuals. This is this is something I often use to explain to people. So think of your projects like this. Think of these jelly beans, these red jelly beans, as your projects. Like maybe you want to start a podcast, write a book, or just have a bigger impact on your audience, offer a different service, anything. So those red jelly beans. What happens when you don't have a team, you're running around like a crazy person, is those jelly beans get buried in so many other things. And so then you don't get the focus or the clarity, or you don't get to them, or you have to dig through them to find them. And that's where I find, you start, getting burnt out and exhausted. And we've all had jobs we hated. So why are you paying so much overhead and all this work to be an entrepreneur to live like that? You don't need that. So what you want to have is a team so that you just have clarity and calm and creativity and you really can execute at a really high level.
Yeah, yeah. Now, one thing I think about as well too, because I believe there's also something called addicted to your struggle, right? Which is
Yes.
very fascinating. Because I believe at some point we all kind of have it somewhere, because the whole thing is like, hey, if you do anything for any length of time, it becomes a routine, and it's hard to
Yeah.
see things any other way. Just like I know for myself, when I did get to a point of working so hard, and it's like, okay, what's the next level? Well, you got to keep growing the team, and the first, at least from mine, what I had to do. Which is kind of like my mentor kind of had me do it, which is, hey, stop, take a week off.
Hmm.
And it's like, what do you mean take a week off? It's like, take the week off, don't clear your schedule, don't do anything, take it off.
Yeah.
And when I heard that, like, it was like the almost like a fear type of resistance to where it's like, I don't want to get out, replace myself from the business, but emotionally was like, whoa, like, are you, and I saw like it just,
Leave the baby alone for a week and see if it chokes to death.
yes,
Yeah. Yeah.
yes, yes. But when I realized the process I had to take to actually get to that point, it was like one of those places where if I didn't have some type of accountability around that, I probably would have been like, no, no, I'll let me wait till I free up some more time so I could get to it. But I got to work this way. I'll always just
Yeah.
keep on the cycle. So how do you help individuals with that? Does your process have
Yes.
that type
Our
of
Our
what?
process very much addresses that. We do 90-day coaching, one-on-one coaching, and then our outsourcing playbook for busy entrepreneurs really addresses that. Because what happens is, and I went through this and my clients go through this, is when you start really producing at a high level and you feel calm and you're being gentle with yourself and you're like, oh, this is fun. I'm just like here. I'm not stressed out and I've just got clarity and vision and things are coming out. I mean, it's like I'm making music. It's awesome. But what happens is I believe that you should leave work fresh and start work refreshed. And then what happens was when you leave work fresh, you think, oh, I still have a couple hours in me. I feel lazy. Like I'm not doing this right. I should be working harder. And that's when you start saying later, later. And then the cycle continues. You feel fresh and you're leaving because like anybody in training, Olympic athlete, they don't have them running till they throw over and nauseous, exhausted. No, there's a pacing. So there is a mindset where you start to go, oh, I still have energy left. Maybe I should be doing more. Maybe I'm dogging it. Maybe I'm taking it too easy. So it is a mentality where we are praised. And I took pride in that for years. Like everyone always said, oh, Kris works really hard. Like, okay, I'm a hard worker. That's a big compliment. And I remember saying to my mom one day, who knew I'd have to undo this, that I'd have to learn that being a hard worker, Kris works hard, is not something I want to be,
Hmm.
you know?
Yeah. So how do you, so when for in your case, how do you use the time? Because I know once you do as an entrepreneur, when you do start building a team, it kind of frees you up to where you're
Mhm.
not having to physically be doing. How do you use that time then?
Well, what I often say too here, oops, I'll show you, is I often tell people, you have so many ideas as an entrepreneur. We have more ideas than we can implement. So I will never run out of ideas. I have big ambitions. I want to run charities. I want to, there's all kinds of big dreams that I have. So when I have a team that takes things off my plate, and what happens is whenever I do something, we do it, like we set up the podcast. The first couple weeks I was involved in that. And now I just record the show and I have nothing to do with the post-production at all, right? So what I tell people all the time, it's YME. You're just missing execution. You have ideas. You're smart. Like entrepreneurs have ideas. What separates one entrepreneur that's not as successful as another is not the ideas, it's the execution. So really what happens is whatever I'm doing, I take a look at this and say, great, okay, now what's the next dream I have? Because I have the room and the freedom and the time and the support to execute another dream. That's really how it goes.
Okay, so you ultimately figure out what you want to do, figure out how the project
Yeah.
dream is.
I have no shortage of ideas, my friend.
Yeah, get it set up, and then have a team, bring a team around you to so that you only do the part you're supposed to do, and get the everyone else to do what they're good at, right?
My involvement gets less dramatically. So right now I'm a little bit more involved in the outsourcing playbook for busy entrepreneurs, more results, less you, because we're launching it in a couple weeks, right? And we're super excited. There's going to be all these major bonuses if you get on the waiting list. Awesome. So we're doing that and I'm really involved in that. But when we relaunch it in 60 days, I'm going to be a lot less involved because we have a formula now, we have a process and we have a team and everyone knows their role. And it's the same team. Like that's the amazing part. When I launched my podcast, a number of my business friends, buddies, were also launching a podcast. So they went out and hired a company that would say, okay, for 20 episodes, it's like $1,000, $1,500. We'll set you up. We'll do all that. Great. But when those episodes are over, do they rehire that company for that bulk fee or do they whatever, find a new one? And then they have to take the time to find a new one or figure out what their best options are. It's very time consuming aside from the money. Whereas my core team, we just adapted another project. We turned on a dime. It didn't cost me any extra money at all, like none. So, I really probably spent 1/20th of what she spent, and that was regular labor. They just incorporated in their other activities. So it keeps the overhead really down, and then it just allows me to move on to the next ambition.
Yeah, yeah. And what I really love about, especially working online with teams as well, too, is that, and it's something I tell my clients as well, too, is that there are all these individuals out there who have skills and they're like literally dying. The stuff you're struggling with and the stuff you're doing, these individuals are sitting at home behind the computers dying, literally just hoping someone would just give them some work, give them something to do and pay them a few bucks, right? Most people feel like you have to go spend thousands and tens of thousands of dollars on a team. There's so many individuals who they're at home and they just want work. And our job as entrepreneurs, I believe, is to, again, figure out that zone of genius, which is whether it's come up with the ideas or whatever, but finding
Mhm.
those core individuals who could help us execute, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Because you start with something that you're passionate about and that you like. And then what happens is you get buried in busy work and post and pre-production work, right? Whatever it is. So all of
Mhm.
a sudden you're answering emails about all this stuff when you should be serving the clients. And also people get confused where what happens is not only is entrepreneur, me learning enough of different things just to get by doesn't serve me. But let's say, for example, my video editor, who also turned into my podcast editor. She came to me a couple weeks ago and said, oh, there's this program Descript, right? And so what happens is she puts the podcast through it and you can hit a button. And if it says they can say, do you want us to take out all the ums? And you go, yeah. So it cost me like $50, but because she's in that zone all the time, tools and talent are also very often connected. So she knows the newest tools and she showed us, I don't have to learn how to use it. She said, here's what it looks like. I'll do it. It costs $50. It's going to save us all this time, tools and talent. So people often get confused about that. I always say winning to me is what is next. What can I do next? That means I've got the freedom to do something next, instead of you just get caught doing the same stuff and you're buried in the admin work of running your business, and you're never where the pain and the frustration comes for an entrepreneur is they can't, as one person said to me, he felt stuck and busy at the same time because he couldn't get to the next thing because you're just trapped over here. And to be an entrepreneur, you want that fulfillment of, oh, this is exciting, this is the next thing. And you can't get there if you're trapped because you're trying to do it all yourself.
Yeah, yeah. Now I'm really curious to see what under your desk looks like now, because you keep pulling out these props. I was like, whoa, what's going on here? I like those visuals, though. Love it. Now, if someone wanted to connect, what is the best way for them to be able to reach out?
Yeah, check me out. I'm on all the socials, LinkedIn, Facebook. I would really encourage you to check out Coming Soon from Kris, KRIS.com, because that would put you on the waiting list for the outsourcing playbook for busy entrepreneurs. Because I keep telling my team, I want to feel like we're bleeding. We're giving away so much. We are really giving away the farm at this first time out because we really want to create a movement and be of service and help lives. But we have been working with people for years, and they tell us on average that we give them back 20 hours a week the first month. So we save them a considerable amount of overhead. We deal with people who are either starting a team or have a team, and they're sort of wasting time and not maximizing that team. And there's a lot of overhead in it. And so we save a tremendous amount of money. So 6 months from now, this course is going to be in a very different price range just because we know the value that it brings. But right now we want to get it in as many hands and change as many lives as possible. So I would check out Coming Soon from Kris.com.
Love it, love it. And guys, if you're watching this on the live or the replay, the what do you call it? The link Kris just mentioned on here, they'll be either above or below this video, so you could click on and get connected right to her. Well, hey Kris, thank you so much for making the time to be here today. Really appreciate it. Do you have any final thoughts before we end?
No, I just think time is the most valuable gift you can give somebody. So I thank you very much for your time and trusting me with your amazing audience. So I am indebted and gracious and grateful. And yeah, thank you for your energy.
Awesome. I love it. Thank you so much, and we'll talk soon.
All right, thanks.